Hi there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be a chat around the topic of bookish bucket lists, more or less. I was tagged to do the Mooks and Gripes book tag by Scott and Nell from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, who described me as having the weirdest taste on BookTube, basically, which of course I loved. So cheers for that. And that tag was created by Sean the Book Maniac, who has like a whole advertising spiel about the book podcast that it's named for. I barely listen to podcasts, and I definitely don't listen to book podcasts, so like advertising one feels genuinely fake to me. But as I was thinking about this, I realized I can't actually do this tag and give you a list of books, because the way I think about what I want to read and what I need to read, air quotes, don't really fit with a list like that, which I will explain. Now, some of that is because a bucket list is an assumption of these are the things that I want to do or need to do before I die. Now, if I'm hit by a bus tomorrow, I don't know that I would be wandering into the afterlife thinking, darn it, I wish I had read, I don't know, the newer translation of Crime and Punishment, which I own but haven't read. I don't think that's going to be one of my life's regrets. So I feel like it's a little fake in part. It's a bit like a couple of years ago there was a tag going around, and I don't remember who created it, but I think it was called the deathbed tag, which had the idea that you find out you're dying and so you want to die reading a particular book. And I've always thought, well, that's not how life works for most people. 25, 26 years ago, my father was killed in a plane crash, and I know that the book he was reading when that plane crashed was Julian May's Jack the Bodiless, which is, science fiction. It was a mass market paperback. That is what really happens most of the time when people die. Like, you don't know the hour of your death. Say the average female in my country lives to be, I think, 82 or 83. So, I hope that I have a certain set of years left, but you don't know. This is probably taking what should be a fun tag way too seriously. So in the interest of actually coming up with something, I think what I'm actually coming up with is more of a language learning project than actually a reading list. Because the one thing that I've noticed in my reading that I'm missing, and that I'm missing not because I haven't read enough, but because it's not accessible to me because I don't speak any of the languages that it's written in, and this is work that has largely not been translated into any language that I speak. Some of you will have heard me say this before, but I've been trying to increase the reading that I've been doing from Central Asian authors, and the issue that I keep coming up with is that a lot of it isn't available in English or French. And in terms of the modern Central Asian writing, most of it is written in Russian, and in terms of the medieval Central Asian writing, it's mostly written in Persian, that kind of classical artistic Persian. And so I think if my goal is to read more books out of those traditions, like, for example, I read Raiza Sultanova's From Shamanism to Sufism, Women, Islam, and Culture in Central Asia last year, I guess. And this has a massive, massive index of poets and writers that one could read if one read Russian, and I do not. So my retirement goal would not necessarily be to read set books, but to get to a language level in which I would be able to read some of those books in the original, or at least the one language into which they had been translated. And I mean, frankly, even when books have been translated, especially when you're looking at something like epic poetry, like since I was mentioning that the medieval stuff is in Persian, even a lot of the medieval Persian writing that is translated into English, you think about the Edward Fitzgerald translation of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, this is not, I mean, as most people would view this as being a work of art in its own, but not necessarily a very true translation. And that is an issue with translations of poetry, even when the languages are very close together. And that is such a huge body of work, because I think now we think of Persian as being, the family of languages that's mostly just spoken in Iran and Afghanistan, but I mean, even now it's still spoken in Central Asia and Tajikistan and in Southeastern Europe, with the Ossetis speakers in Russia. So what am I saying? And again, the real point is that 500 years ago, it was a more widely spoken and more widely written in language, in the same way that kind of English exists now as a language that a lot of people whose first languages aren't English write in English. Being able to read Russian or medieval Persian would be useful, I guess. My bookish bucket list is actually a language bucket list. And I mean, obviously the answer is that I could be working on those languages now, but as I have mentioned, I have other language priorities now, which involve salvaging languages that I speak-ish. rather than starting with something new. So this is not really the tag because I'm not giving you a list of books, so I'm just going to call this a discussion, but I'll link to the tags and everything below. But I'd love to know, do you view bucket lists in general, or bookish ones, as a kind of to-do list, or do you view it as something for your retirement? If you're retired already, do you view it as something for the future, or a checklist you go through? Because I know that varies a lot, and not everyone is... and not everyone goes around thinking, well, I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, so is this what I would regret? Not reading something is not going to be what I regret. I don't know. I think this is going to get morbid if I keep talking. But in any case, if you haven't done this tag, if you haven't done the tag that originated this rambly, babbly thing that I've just recorded, please consider yourself tagged. I feel like it would be fake to tag people because I haven't really done the tag. So there we go. But in any case, do you have a bookish bucket list? What's on it? Do you have a language learning bucket list? What's on that? Are they connected to each other? I'd like to hear about that too. That's it for now. Ciao.